Good evening, what? Oh, good evening, everyone. It is March 26th. Welcome to our meeting. We're going to say the pledge and we'll start the work session. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey. Anybody has announcements? Anybody? Okay. Hello, all. I don't actually have any announcements either. So I think we should just get started. I feel like I do have an announcement, but I can't remember what it is. I'll remember during the meeting. We'll be good. Okay.
While we're making some furniture changes, I'll get to the first items.
Okay.
Molly.
Yes, well, these chairs may have seen their last year here.
First item on the agenda, folks, is an application by Hacienda El Patio, which is at 107 Main Street for a cabaret license.
Mhm.
We have on tonight Lieutenant Lance and Captain Donahue. And I know the board likes to hear from OPD with regard to cabaret license applications.
Okay. Gentlemen,
Good evening.
may
How
we
are
have
you?
your input as we always do?
Absolutely. So I think with this location and this application, there's a number of concerns or issues to unpack. First is the location that at 107 Main Street. I understand that there are some structural issues with the rear of the property, which is listed in the application as an area that they would eventually like to serve alcohol. It's my understanding from the building department that the somewhat questionable volleyball courts that were installed there at one point, there were some posts installed that have degraded the structure of the rear of the property and has now led to stones rolling down the embankment onto Central Avenue. The physical location itself may not be ready at this point for safe operation. Furthermore, as we all know, we've had some challenges with bars in the past, and are doing a better job of doing our due diligence. And we want to make sure, as we had happen at a separate location that I won't mention, that we aren't just shuffling parties, names in the deck, so to speak, to sort of sidestep the authority of the clerk's office. So we want to make sure that the authority of the clerk's office is being upheld and that we aren't simply changing the name of the location and putting it in the name of another person who might just continue to operate as per usual, and sort of have the silent parties in the back actually running the location. My understanding is that the applicant is a relative of the previous owners, a younger person who may or may not have experience in running a restaurant. But again, we want to make sure that this isn't simply, installing a straw owner in order to sidestep the revocation of licenses and privileges and the like from the clerk's office or the liquor authority for that matter. I also find kind of curious on part of the application, there's a question as to whether the previous licensee has had any disciplinary issues regarding their license. And the answer that was given was don't know on the form, which I find curious because it's the same attorney for both properties. So I feel like they would know pretty intimately, especially considering the history of this location, what the disciplinary history was like. So I think that in terms of this location, in terms of all the parties involved, and also one last part is that there is a listing that there would be a manager there, but we don't have any information about who this manager would be. So would it be the previous owner now is acting as the manager and we're just switching roles? So, we'd be very curious about that. But with all these issues, the physical location, the issues of who the licensee is going to be, who is actually running the place, who's taking legal responsibility, and some other issues that we're continuing to look into in terms of the background investigation. It seems that this is putting the cart before the horse a little bit, in that there's a number of pending issues that may affect licensing. It says that any pending disciplinary action may delay a determination of application for liquor licensing. So it feels like a fast track would certainly not be a prudent way to go in this instance.
Thank you, Captain. Is there additional information from, are you?
Lieutenant Lance.
Lieutenant, I'm sorry. Lieutenant Lance, is there an addendum to that, or did the captain cover all the points?
No, I think the captain covered all the points that I would reference. So I think he did a good job of summarizing what our concerns are.
Great. Stuart, you want to add anything to this?
I do, and Mayor, Mr. Chisari is here as well, who is the applicant's representative. I do want to just comment on a few things that the captain said. First, with regard to the location itself, 107-113 is a building that is, there is litigation involving that building.
Mhm.
It is specific to the order from the court that the rear may not be used. In fact, I advised Mr. Chisari of that very specific fact until that area is approved by the building department. So that's not happening. The other point that the captain made, and I don't want to sound like I'm correcting, but in the document that was submitted by the prior owner regarding the surrender, the question that's asked is, has the licensee or any of its partners been arrested, indicted, or served with a summons for any crime or offense within the past 12 months? That's not what happened here. They had licenses revoked pursuant to the clerk, but there was no arrest or indictment. So Mr. Chisari can talk well enough for himself, but the answer no is correct here because that's in fact what occurred here. But in terms of the issues with regard to who's going to operate, who's going to run it, I think the better person to answer would be Mr. Chisari.
Okay. Hello.
Hello. Yes, as far as the disciplinary goes, I'll just go into that a little bit. The prior place, El Manabita, surrendered their license. There was a disciplinary pending, but once they surrendered their license, it becomes null and void, and there's been no determination by the state liquor authority that there was any violations. I know Captain Donahue and some other police officers testified at it, but once we surrendered the license, it became a nullity, and the state liquor authority, for lack of a better purpose, dismisses the charges. So theoretically, there are no, and whatever happened before, I wasn't present for any prior disciplinary action, so I wouldn't know if anything happened. As for, again, Mr. Khan addressed the structural issues of the building in the back parking lot. We understood that. Once Mr. Khan said, I thought the issues were resolved. I didn't know they weren't. Once he said they were still there, I'm like, fine, nobody's going to use the outside. The state liquor authority has already investigated my client and has already issued two temporary liquor licenses for the premises. Obviously, she can't open because we don't have the beverage licenses yet or the cabaret. She is related to one of the prior owners, and she would hire a manager once the establishment gets open and there's a revenue. I can't hire somebody. They can't hire somebody they can't pay at this point. And under the state liquor authority's rules, we would have to disclose that person to the state liquor authority before they could operate. So once we get the approval here to open, we would then hire a manager and notify the state liquor authority and obviously Mr. Khan's place. But we're also here to operate under any conditions that the town board would like to give us. That's why we're here, to have a conversation about hours and how they're operating. They're only looking for a beer and wine license and not looking for a full liquor license. So I know they were, unfortunately, I'm well versed in the histories of all these places. And that's why we're trying to do it better and different with the town boards, help. I mean, they've been closed over a year now. There's been nothing there.
They're closed for a reason.
No, I'm not
Okay.
saying they weren't. So they've been closed over a year now and trying to reopen and operate in the way the town would like. Village.
I was gonna wait till it was done, but so
There is a.
you've been in.
There is a town,
Yeah,
yes,
it's a
trust me. I'm-
municipality. This is a
Yes.
village, yeah. Okay. Does anybody have questions? Gentlemen, please.
So quick, so if the village were to say, okay, and it's purely an F, right? Like, how long would it be until the property would open?
If you, well, when you issue it, it would be as long as it would take them, I guess, to buy inventory and stock the place and open up.
So it could be a couple of weeks.
Could be a couple of weeks.
Right. Given that the potential timeline is a couple of weeks, can you speak to a little bit to who you have lined up to work at the establishment? Because I don't think in this day and age you can hire folks, full crew of 15, I believe was the number that was
I
in the
think the number's
document.
in there and they would start slowly with obviously the principal and who she could find to help her. I mean, unfortunately, we're in a world where you put out an ad and see who shows up. Unfortunately, everybody's got to be, as we all know, over age. I heard there's been some interesting things with the other
So-
places.
Right.
Um,
So
Sorry,
We're
folks.
more than happy to disclose everybody who gets hired there to the village. As we do.
if there were a stipulation that nobody who worked at the previous establishment could work there again? How would that impact,
That'd be
how
fine.
would that impact things?
I don't think it would impact it at all.
I guess the other question is that and I'm gonna play back some of your own words to you, right? I do, although I'm new to the board, I'm familiar with, I follow things pretty closely for the last several years, and I go back and I actually do some research, but in your own wording, you've said "we" several times when referring to both establishments, and you specifically use the word reopen. Right? Reopen to me indicates a continuation of individuals who are running the premises, as opposed to anything in the words that you've talked about that would indicate it's a brand new establishment. So I'm just,
I use reopen as in a place that was open, closed, and now it's reopening. Under new management, new name. It's like seeing any sign that says under new management, grand reopening. They do it all. It's a term of art.
I've been in the retail world for quite a while, and reopen to me doesn't necessarily mean that, right? So to me, that indicates a continuation, plus the fact that, it's within the same family. It's not necessarily arm's length to me. There's another kind of official term if you want to use that. So to me, it indicates that it's a continuation. So just gonna let you know.
That's a concern for you.
It is a concern
Yeah.
for me, given the previous history.
What's the relationship between the upcoming owner and the previous one?
Damn, took one of my questions.
Daughter.
Daughter.
Yeah, it's in it's in this.
It's in the-
Yeah, it's in the paper.
I get that. I mean, just ask the
Okay.
questions anyway. So, and do both parties live in the same household? Are you here? Is the person here?
She is.
Oh, hi. Do you live in the same address? Okay. And how many bars have you run in the past? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You need to speak. Excuse me.
Sorry.
Stand.
Hello, can you just give us your name?
Jeanette.
Hi, so how many have you run? How many do you own besides this proposed one?
Own,
Yeah,
none,
none. This will be your first?
first,
Okay,
but been in the, like, knowledge of it all.
She's grown up in that world.
yeah, but I'm actually asking her, so give me that opportunity. So how many have you managed?
Managed,
So-
with my dad, maybe one. but
Okay,
Grown up always around them.
around that.
Yes.
Okay, are you from here? Are you from Ossining?
Yes,
Because we've seen you before, here, no?
I don't.
No? Okay, my mistake then. Okay, great. I'm sorry, Bob.
I just have one question. Servers, bartenders, whoever, proper training.
Yes, of course.
Well, I
Tips-
mean, I
tips
think we'd
train.
wanna see proof of that. That they have their training, tips, training, or whatever it is.
More than happy to submit that to the village.
That's all I have.
Okay, so I'm not really getting a sense. Dana, do you have a question?
So the reason you're just going for beer and wine is because of the church there and you can't get a liquor license or,
I thought the church was just outside the 200 feet. That's
oh,
just.
I don't think so.
Stuart,
I don't.
is that
know
accurate?
yes.
Does anybody know?
I don't know, but if they're going for beer and wine, they don't, the distance
No.
doesn't come into the point.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I just thought it, why wouldn't you go for the
I
full?
believe they do fall under the 200-foot rule. I believe it is. And
They're
I'm
definitely
sorry,
under
certain it
200
is.
feet. There's no question.
I mean, it was never an issue to me to go for a liquor license of beer and wine. That was always what was brought to me.
The beer and wine.
Beer and wine,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I was looking at the plans. It looks like you have a pretty big establishment planned, including in the basement.
Yes, there's the basement area, which has
Is that
got,
currently was that used before? The basement?
Yes,
Okay.
liquor authority is actually issuing a temporary license for downstairs and upstairs. Both.
Okay, well, the fact that the property isn't safe kind of bothers me. I don't know, you know,
I think my understanding. of the
again, the building is safe.
the building is
It's
safe
the back of the
Yeah.
building where there was some
by the
issues.
road.
And that is being repaired at this point. And pursuant to court order, that back may not be used by any of the tenants because there are other businesses in that building as well as, residential.
Right,
upstairs.
right, okay. I mean, I can't think of a reason to deny a cabaret license. They don't have I mean, you kind of look like your dad,
Oh,
by the
that's-
way. So, I mean, I can't think of a reason to deny it.
Right.
I can't, so.
So for me, the reason to deny it is that there's not enough of an arm's length. You've been with your dad. We have too much of this. This is not a court of law. We don't have to follow every single piece of it. That's not our role, not in this particular instance. There doesn't seem to be a separation. It seems like the same owners under a different name related to one another. And it isn't that charges were dropped. That would be in a court of law. You could argue that in front of us who live here and see all these bars. And as you all know, because you've been here many times, we take the police very seriously. They are mandated with keeping the community safe, and safety has become a big issue with a number of bars. Last time a bar came in front of us, we reinstated them because they fixed all the issues. There's no fixing going on here. There was a problem. The problem wasn't fixed. It's now, from a legal perspective, the state no longer cares about it because they closed up. You don't have any issues with the business that closed up. So it's not because anybody fixed anything. That would make me happier. It's not because things have gotten better. Nobody's been hired. We don't know who's going to get hired. We'll have to go after the fact and make sure, and all of the people that stand in front of us and tell us how they're going to put this through a training and they're going to hire grade. I mean, the attorney himself said how difficult it is to hire people. That is true. It's become very difficult, which means that it's even less of a probability that this will move forward. And I appreciate that people can't open businesses and hire people until they have a business, and that's a conundrum. So for me, it's the same folks which is what the captain was getting at, not from a legal perspective per se. I'm not an attorney, but from honestly, just common sense. Anybody who's been following this would say, so the person didn't fix what they were doing. They're now giving it to their daughter, who's never run a place. She's managed one or two places. That's great. But it's the same family. It's just, they're just switching around in the names and titles. And I think the captain was getting that. The captain, I think the safety issue, Stuart is correct. It's probably a separate issue, although not a likable issue, that the previous owners had done something that has then caused a tremendous problem. If you drive down that road, you actually can see the rocks on that side. That shows a lack of respect for the community, a total lack of consideration, and why they needed volleyball courts in the back of a bar is another question altogether. But it really shows this issue that we have with the lack of respect for the community that people are running a business in. So I'm not really feeling great. I feel like the building is a separate issue. But it does show, I think, certain behavior. I don't really have a sense. There's 4 of us. We need a majority of some
Understood,
sort.
but the,
So,
the property
your
is, the
thoughts?
property is not the bar owner's problem. It's,
That's what I
it's
said.
the
It's a
landlord's.
separate issue.
It's a
It
separate
doesn't
issue,
feel
so
good. Yeah,
I
I know,
mean,
and I said that. It just
I'm-
doesn't feel good. Now, where are you leaning on?
I'm
this?
leaning to give them, I don't want to give them a full year.
Okay,
I would like to do 6 months
oh, and see how.
and see
plays
how it
out.
goes.
Stuart,
Well,
is
if
that
I
a
might-
possibility?
I believe their license expires in August, I think. Let me check.
6 months from, yeah.
Oh, no, I'm good.
No. He's actually saying less than 6 months
no.
because we're in March.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, their liquor license expires on August 9th.
You would have to renew.
They would have to renew
Oh.
at that
3
point
months.
anyway.
So that's 6
they would
months.
Have to be in front of us again.
They would, well, so if you wanted to, you could essentially issue the cabaret to go until, let's say August 9th.
For the SL,
Then
to the
you could
SLA.
Come back and then the
Yeah.
SLA would have to grant a renewed
That would
license
work.
at that point.
So, he's your attorney. I'd rather speak to the owner. I will just tell you that our experience and the police experience has been relatively negative in general about promises made and kept, mostly not kept. So this will be great because you have every opportunity to do this well and prove things, which is, I think, what the board is leaning towards. Am I right? And then we take it step by step. We're not going to do what boards in the past have done, just give the big a year or whatever and then regret it. We're going to do it one step at a time. And I hope that you follow all the regulations because the same police officers will be back and they're going to be watching because they have been mandated by this board and by law and by our zoning and everything else that we do to keep their eyes on safety issues in a community that is, pretty densely populated now in the downtown that 20 years ago it wasn't, when a lot of these bars had opened up. So I hope that that works for you. And
we
we'll get a
talk about
chance to see all this.
Okay, just, we want nothing more than to see you guys succeed.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Really,
good.
there's been a history. So, which you are, I'm sure, aware of. So I think if we line that up with your liquor license, you got 6 months to prove us wrong.
Can we talk
They
about
don't have
hours?
6 months. We're gonna have
Yeah.
to. It's not 6
It
months
won't be,
though.
well, from whenever you pass your resolution, which would be
Next
next
week.
week,
Right.
it would be a little under 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Because you're gonna
All right.
pass it
Still in
next
the
week.
same.
I just want
So-
to.
Yeah, no, we're close.
Yeah.
If they're doing everything right, that's not gonna matter.
Correct. And
Well, I don't know if I would say it that way. We're not committing to anything. It's an opportunity to do it correctly.
Right.
I'm not gonna get quoted on record to make commitments for the future, right? So it's really in simple, everyday language. You follow the laws. We don't get complaints or commentary from the police. Building is kept the way it's supposed to. Whatever is supposed to happen happens. We will reconsider it when the license is back up. And you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I would like to add something. I probably got as many calls about this particular bar as the police did as village manager. It is in a residential area. There's apartments over the bar as well as along that strip. And noise was the constant refrain. So it's not just the noise from the cabaret, from the music. It's noise from, and we have been working with our business owners. It is your responsibility to not overserve your clientele because it is the noise that happens when people go out in the street in the wee hours of the morning and they've been drinking heavily and they're starting fights and they're creating problems. I can't tell you the number of calls I get about that particular location. There are a lot of people who are evidently trying to sleep. They're early birds. So it's not just what happens in the bar, what happens immediately outside based on the patrons going to the bar matters too. And that is the responsibility of the owner.
so just one more thing. Open a line of communications with Captain Donahue.
Yep.
That will make things probably a lot easier, but open that line of communication. Don't not do it and then be surprised. So take the 5 minutes and give him a call and have a quick meeting with him.
I'm available.
What's that, Brendan?
I am available.
Yep.
Right, and just start off on the right foot. That's all. Now I'm done.
Trustee
Right.
White, you asked about hours.
Yeah,
What's in the application will be changed slightly. It would start at noon. And on Monday, Tuesday, it's closed Wednesdays. So Monday, Tuesday, and let me start again. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, noon to midnight. Friday, Saturday, noon to 1 a.m., which is the closing time that we have.
which is what we
with
do
regard
for
to
most.
other locations.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Sunday would be a midnight closing.
Sunday's like a working day because it goes in, it's
It's
a
only
work
Friday,
night.
Saturday with the
Right.
extra hour plus.
Right. And so we'll have our eyes on it along with the police. Because as I had mentioned, and we're talking now on record, and that's why when somebody comes back in a few months and says, I didn't know, they'll be able to look at this. The downtown has become very residential. And we respect those folks, which is what the village manager was getting to. And when we get complaints, we document them all. And that's what's going to be used both by the police and the village manager. If we can let this go forward. So you're going to have to make a big investment. I think trustee Fritchie is basically saying, make your life easier and do it well. And include the police in the process. That's probably the best advice given today. Great, so I think we can bring
One-
this,
one-
I'm
one
sorry,
thing,
did you
just-
have another thing? Yeah.
A couple of us had brought up the manner of tips training. I think that it would be important to see a list of the people who are working and there's tip certificates.
Yeah.
I'm totally agree. I'm just putting
Yeah.
putting that out there now. Okay.
He's making that one of the
One of the
qualifications,
stipulations.
one of the stipulations, not an option. And nor is it the number of people that work there, the number of bathrooms and everything else that has to be done correctly. And we've had somebody come in front of us, so I'll just have to say it anyway. But you're supposed to know that when you own a bar, that you're responsible not only what's inside the bar, but everybody that walks outside and what they do afterwards. And that'll also be taken, it's not a court of law, so we're making the commentary, because we need to pass this in the future. Stuart, what am I forgetting?
Nothing. I will have a resolution next week.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen, and I think you heard everything, so hopefully we'll be having conversation in a very positive way, in a few months.
Very good.
August.
Thank you.
The license is in July, yeah.
Standing here with
Yeah. Yeah.
the- So you wanna sit there? I can give you my microphone.
So, what are we doing next?
Next up, yes, Jesse, it's on. I'm sorry. We have Drazen Kakovic and Julia Komat from DACK designed firm that we have hired, the architects for our community center project. We have sent you all the presentation to look at, and I was going to print some out, and if anybody needs hard copies, we can have some printed out too. But I think we'll be able to see on the
Yes.
screen pretty
Yeah,
well.
oh, that's right.
But they're here tonight to show the preliminary plans for the community center, and I'll do a little setup with their presentation
put it
too, to remind everybody of how we got here and the work we've done so far.
Great.
But we are very excited, and we have our staff who's been working very hard on this as well here tonight. So they can answer questions also. So with that, I'd
Great.
like to introduce Drazen and Julia.
Great. So you could actually sit if you want. You don't have to stand. There's a chair right there. And you can, if you want to grab that mic, it comes right out of the sleeve and just hold on to that and then you could speak into that. It's on, I think, actually.
It's fine. You know, I'm very reluctant. I remember years ago, I was in Boston at the Archdiocese of New York there, of Boston there. And they invited me to speak about a subject, and everybody was sitting around a table, some 20 people. So I sat there and I gave the whole presentation sitting, and I come out and the person who invited me there says, I've never seen anybody speak sitting down at a table. So I'm reluctant these
It's
days.
a work session. It's
You were
less
invited.
formal.
to
Yes,
speak.
I
We were
just
giving you
find
full approval. You can sit and
well,
speak.
standing up there, I think for some people is sort of nerve wracking. So anyway, welcome. We're excited to hear about we're also stalling while they load up. Maddie's load. There we go. Our beautiful community center. And how's it going? How's the project going?
Well, I hope you will tell us tonight.
Okay.
We think that it's going well. We have some interesting slides for you to show you,
Okay.
and I think we have some reasonably good numbers for the intended scope of work. So
Okay.
that's all good. So if I can, I'd like to begin, Madam Mayor, trustees. So just as a reminder here, what allows this project, it's a $10 million New York State downtown revitalization grant that Village was very successful in obtaining. And I understand that a number of local planning committee members worked on this initially. And congratulations on getting that grant. And we certainly hope we'll design a nice center with you. And I understand that $2.5 million was designated
Yeah.
to this project, and I guess the village is funding the remaining portion of that.
Who wrote the presentation? You guys or they did?
They wrote the presentation. This was just something I put in there for
Okay.
the, you know,
Oh, okay.
that I wanted to make sure.
I was getting a little worried. Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
no, I wrote this
You
slide.
sound so impressed, but I thought you wrote this. I was like, wow, okay.
I helped them out a little bit. I
Okay,
gave them some
okay. I
Congrats
was
for
getting
help here.
confused. Okay, we're good. We can move on. We know this stuff.
Okay.
You wanted to do the context.
Yeah.
Good.
And so you see what the work was,
Yep.
the work that was so far done and the work that is forthcoming. You see that we started in September of last year with a collection of data, with the scan, three-dimensional scan of the building. So we have all of the data. We continued with municipal and community engagement, which really involved a number of staff members here, a number of village employees of the village, as well as the town. And we got to the programming and schematic design stage at the end of that process. And we're now here able to show you the conceptual design for the building. This will be followed by the community outreach again. And then we will be working on the design submittal and a bid preparation and final plans in April for June of this year. Bidding and negotiation and the start of construction. So that gives you a rough idea of where we are with the project now.
I was so excited and then I saw TBD at the end, but it's okay. I'm still excited. Still excited. You're running on time, which is also good.
So again, the project goals, and many of these goals were given to us, were to optimize the space. It's a limited amount of space. You wanted to have the best use possible for the interior of the building. The current museum, which is no longer really functional, would be used to expand the program functions. The youth programming is very important, and we've dedicated quite a bit of time to making sure that that is addressed in the program. Reimagine some of the exterior space that is sporadically used, but could be used, we think, a lot better. As you know, the single entrance on the main level is still remaining as the principal entrance for security reasons.
Wait, which is the main level? The downstairs or the current one?
The downstairs by the pool.
That's now we're
That
calling
will
that
be the
main-
permanent main
Okay,
entrance.
that's where it should be, but I just
Yeah.
want to make sure we're all in sync on that.
I mean, we are keeping the second entrance because it may be used for Section 8, as you will see in the proposal, and occasional
It makes
elections
sense. I
and
just want
things
to
like
make sure
that.
we all are on the same page on what we
Yeah.
think is the main entrance. Okay.
And then we have some thoughts also on the exterior, which we'll show you, and
Very
we'll
nice.
try to do decarbonization, but it's an interior project, so we have limited means
Yeah.
of getting that. Next slide, please. So this is just briefly for you to see who did we speak. Julia mostly did that work. She spoke with the town of Ossining, Senior Center.
Well,
It's the nutrition.
Senior nutrition program, okay?
Thank you.
Then we spoke with the number of the advisory committee, the recreation admin staff, the staff for the programs, the youth bureau staff, and youth advisory board and youth council. We talked to the senior nutrition staff, not the supervisor from the town, and also to the staff. Okay, the maintenance staff and the person for the Section 8.
And we're showing this slide, even though it's not very exciting, just to show that we did our due diligence to understand what's going on. And after these interviews, we started designing, and we still didn't understand it fully because you do so much. And I truly mean that in that center. So
I do want to note that Jocelyn and Julia spent a lot of time talking to these groups over a period of weeks. So they did get overloaded with a lot of information, a lot of it was a very long wish list that they're you'll see how they've been
Okay.
able to accommodate it, but it was quite we tried to cover all the bases of the main stakeholders, the users of the
next slide. So again, this just reminds you here of what programs you have, the senior programs, adult family programs, after school programs, which are very, substantial. Youth bureau programs, which we are trying to reinforce. And then we also see outdoor space, a lot of administrative space as well. Next slide. So the purpose of this slide is to inform you as to where the renovation is proposed. The gray areas, you see the first floor plan, that's the entrance area. Up on the top, on the left side, you see the natatorium. On the right side is the gymnasium. Those are two big spaces. Gymnasium below number F. We're not touching those spaces. So the colorful spaces are the ones we intend to renovate. You see the list on the right-hand side. I don't think I need to repeat this, but the purpose is just to show that this is a limited renovation of the areas which were really, kind of 1970s. They haven't been really touched for many years. They are small spaces in many cases. They're not connected very well, labyrinthine a little bit, and we're trying to really change that very much. If we can move to the next
I
slide.
guess, when did the cafe become something that's in this piece?
So, Karen, please go ahead.
one of the things that we came about in the initial plans when we were doing the DRI. A cafe may be broad in terms of how we it's a broad term, so it really is a place to gather. So it may be as simple as having some vending machines and a coffee vending machine, or something else. But basically a place where you can come in, you're meeting your friends to go to your yoga class, or teams are meeting in the afternoon, whatever it is, and you have a place to sit down, a gathering space, and you can grab a cup of coffee, and maybe we can have vending machines with healthy snacks and things like that.
But there is no intention to have a
Like
staff
a
there.
retail.
Right.
Yeah, I would change actually that word, because actually that word means something. That's a little different. I just think that these words end up
Okay.
getting used, and then people go, where's the cafe? Yes, that I think is actually what a cafe is versus a gathering space, a meeting space that you then, so if you say a gathering place and then you put in vending machines, you go, that's nice. You say a cafe, it's a person, it's machines, it's refrigeration, it's something.
Okay.
I think the word just, because these things all take, that's a little restaurant. It's like these things take a life of their own.
Yeah.
And in fact, I remember oftentimes discussing that it would be better at the community center to have food trucks at certain high peak hours rather than taking the space. But a meeting place that we then add something to, I'm sure you'll find the right word. I would just,
Sure.
these things have a life of their own.
Understood.
Yeah. Open, there, create.
And just on this slide, I just wanted to point to the number F on the top. It's a small part of the program, but there's stage there which is not used, which we would repurpose for storage space, mostly for storage space of the gym equipment, but also.
We know that, and actually the stage itself which is kind of set back in dark. I will say on that one time a year, it's hard to see all you guys. We can also, we talked to John Heitman about creating a platform that could either slide under where the chairs are now,
Oh.
or like a platform that we can take apart and store in the new storage area. And then that platform would be there and you would be in the light during the inauguration.
Well, I don't, if that's the only thing it gets used for, I thought that they were still using that.
They
for-
build.
Is that
use it
really all they use it?
occasionally, not as much as they used to, like Santa used to sit there sometimes.
Well,
years
because you put the
back.
chairs on, it ruins the basketball, the
Yeah.
wood, so you're damned if you do. No, I didn't, so any performances or anything are gonna be done where? If that stage isn't used, where are they being done at the school
We
or
don't do a lot of
performance sort of stuff?
performance stuff in the rec center.
Okay.
It's very seldom used for that. But we do have options and there would be ways that we could maybe do things with belt bottoms and things to, that if we needed a stage like platform, we could probably make one in-house.
Okay, I just thought it was used for more, so it's just me, I don't.
Yeah, but most, like any musical stuff that it's either.
Yeah, he's just far away from it.
Anything that, any stuff like that I've attended has either been up at Bethany Arts or at the library. The stage at the library.
Somebody might want to go to Bethany and their stage is actually not permanent, although they leave it up now. It's not a huge room. It's built and it can be taken down up. It's just an FYI, maybe there's an opportunity to do something, but you're right. I just didn't know. I actually thought it was being used. Okay, great.
Okay, Maddie, maybe you can enlarge this to focus on the parts that we're actually changing.
It's coming.
Is it,
Yeah,
oh, is it on the,
no,
next?
it's fine.
Okay,
It's coming.
I think
Yeah.
you see it.
okay.
You would be moving the bigger staircase?
Yes. So we'll
Okay.
get that
Why
on
don't we
on
go
our
through the
future
next
slides.
and then,
So
sorry, I
let's go to the
interrupted.
next
Yeah.
slide.
Let's do that.
So on the upper level,
Yeah.
it is again similar area, almost directly on top of the first floor, which we are renovating. You see in the lower left corner the museum space. On the right side, you see the outside courtyard, which would be redesigned, and the areas in between. Again, we'll show you the plans in a little bit later.
Great.
So if we can move to the next slide. So here are kind of the key goals that we have,
get
that
those
many of
pictures.
which came from the village, but we just wanted to emphasize them again here. So one need is really for the flexible space and flexible design, and that became very, very clear after we spoke to the gentleman you see here in the audience and others, that spaces are used for so many different functions during the day. The typical thing is seniors in the morning, then after school programs during the day, and then maybe teens in the evening or some other programs in the evening. So all of the spaces really can get any number of different functions. So what you will see in the plans is not so much that we say, okay, the youth will congregate in this area and the seniors will have their nook here. It's really, you will see the rooms which will be then used with movable furniture for different functions during the day. Next slide, please. A few ideas that we had, again, to eliminate the somewhat cavernous look of small spaces that we have right now, is to have as many glazed areas as possible, to create a sense of openness, visibility, transparency, which I think would also help people so that they orient themselves better throughout the building. Next slide. This is a small point, but when you have open spaces, we do have to pay attention to acoustics, or we may have a problem. So that is something that we are keenly aware of. When you have glass, we made a mistake, I'll be honest, in our own office. The conference room has a lot of glass, and unfortunately, it's very reflective. So we had to put additional acoustical panel to avoid this problem.
What's the picture on the left?
It's just a decorative acoustical wall.
Oh, that's, okay, got it.
Next
Okay.
slide, please. So this is just a sense of what some spaces, in order to give them identity, we may do. This may be as simple as painting on the wall of a music room, perhaps. So those are the kinds of things we will get to a little bit later in the design, but we are trying to give you a sense of how do we create spaces which are more interesting than just blank walls.
The vinyl wall coverings are removable? I mean, not every day, but I mean, are they permanent or in a year or 2 years, you take them down?
Like a wall covering. I mean, it's not meant to be changed every day, but it's could be changed in a couple of years.
Right, is it like a wrap that actually can be taken down after a short period of time, or really it's for a few years? Then when it gets bad looking, you remove it, put a new something.
So as we work with you, we can do a variety of things. We've
Okay.
showed you one interesting example, but yes, it could be just a permanent wall covering, which you take down after a couple of years, but it could be also movable panels. We can perhaps bring this to the next presentation of this board. We don't have it tonight, which we have done on Westchester Community College in their student dining room, where inset between the two layers of glass, we put some very attractive photographs. They can be taken down every year, every 6 months as the college wishes, and to emphasize different campaigns. And they're very large. They're like 2 of these tables together.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's something else that's very movable and very changeable. And then, of course, there are, displays such as this one, which
Right.
could be changed many times a day. Next slide, please. So here, the points that we wanted to emphasize, we'll have a faster Wi-Fi. The building will be equipped with smart screens and TVs so that various programs can take place. And then there will be some spaces for the computer use, either by the seniors or by the teens that will be specially equipped for that. Next slide, please. And again, this just emphasizes the light and open common spaces. So if you can maybe enlarge the slide on the bottom right corner, you can see the images on the left. And then perhaps this is a good time to introduce what we're trying to do at the main entrance. So after coming in for the vestibule, which you see there in the center, the entry doors, we would like to create an open space, this pink color, flesh color tone, which would be not interrupted really with a stair. It would be a brand new stair, but an open stair so that you can see through. You would see then a reception desk, and beyond that, what we call a cafe, which we still need to work on, whether it's a grouping of chairs or maybe it is a cafe like this. We've done that on one of the corporate jobs. We've done that, and it's actually rather popular. People eat lunch there, so we can discuss what might be best suited here. And down on the bottom of that flesh-colored space, you see the grouping of furniture where it could be an informal gathering, youth, seniors, but have a flexible, open space for people to gather during the day. Hey, I'm meeting a friend here, or, I am writing my homework, or any number of functions in that space. And while we are on this slide, I wanted to mention on the left is the recreation room. That room is largely the way it is now, maybe a little bit smaller here in this footprint than you have it right now, but it is used for the same purpose. We would be putting in a partition, movable partition that would divide it in half so that you can have 2 different groups meeting at the same time. On the yellow tone, 2 yellow tones, you see on the bottom is the youth offices. So they would be located in this area. We felt that this was good. We had a lot of discussions about this, but we felt that this was good because it is close to the entrance. We felt that it's close also to this common space, which kind of flows between different areas. And what you see obviously is the office furniture. You will see on all of these plans that we have so-called open office plans. In other words, we have workstations rather than individual offices for a number of reasons. They save you space. They are a little bit more friendly that way. People don't get so attached to their real estate. So we felt that would be an appropriate way, except for, of course, the head of the program, which would have the office. You see also the conference room, which could be used for a number of different ways.
Research center. Resource center.
Resource center, thank you, yes. So it's not just the conferences, but it could be used for a number of program functions as well. And it has an outside access, which means that at 10 o'clock, if you had some program, they could use this room without having to go into the office area. The balance of this is largely the same. The bathrooms would be made handicapped accessible. The mechanical room stays the same. The kitchen is renovated already and stays the same. And then the offices related to the senior program will be renovated, but will stay in the same location.
I'm sorry, the office is related to senior center?
In
Where are we?
Senior
The senior,
lunch. This Lynn's
The,
office
that
and-
little yellow. Yeah, so
Oh, the section offices.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
no, this is,
those are the offices for the senior nutrition staff currently, so it would be basically the same space. But obviously, if we're doing new flooring, things like that, it would be done throughout. So that's they're the offices that are right next to the kitchen.
I'm sort of not seeing the elevators, but I'm sure they're somewhere in there. We have so many.
yeah.
You're not getting rid of any
So,
of them.
no. So we are getting rid of one elevator,
Well,
believe it or
that's right,
not.
we are.
Oh, okay.
You see up on the top is your main elevator, which is an accessible elevator. The one on the one in the 70s building is, I understand, hard to repair. It's really not an ADA elevator anyway, and everybody kind of voted that to eliminate
It's
it.
not
So what do
reused
you
that
do?
well.
How do you eliminate an elevator?
remove the guts, put the floor, use it as a storage. So you
Got
have a
it,
storage
okay.
in first floor, storage in the second
Okay.
floor.
Great, okay, thank you.
Next slide, please.
One more thing I would like to add to Dražen's, that new stair, which are open stair, serve also the function connecting to floors, okay? Because right now it seems like all crammed and small spaces and also isolated. I mean, this will allow like better flow and first floor, second floor kind of come together as those common rooms.
Okay.
The photograph on the left kind of indicates this.
Yeah,
as
more of
to-
that warehouse sort of open look, right?
That's right, that's right. We
Which
may
you've
not
done
have,
before in other places.
we may not have quite as grand open space, but we're trying to go for this look.
Right, well, it's nice because you can put things underneath when you do open staircases, which is
Exactly, and you can,
ideal rather than the way it's built now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next slide, please. So another one of the ideas is the biophilic design. The reminders of the nature on the inside of the building, and that can be done with a number of different materials, which we'll gladly bring to you the next time. It is quite amazing, actually, what they make. They're not the real plants, so you don't have to worry about watering them every day, but they bring the sense of green into the building, and you see some examples here.
Where am I
Excellent.
looking? Where's the example?
Like the one in the middle on the top, that is this is really just a photographic image. Yes.
Are those real trees?
No.
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 They're photograph.
But there are literally green walls with something that looks like a moss. And we have the sample in the office. I should have probably brought it. I'll bring it next time. It's very nice, actually. And we've used it in a number of corporate interiors. Works very well.
So you weren't able to actually figure out how to put like green walls up?
Yes.
That would be yes, you weren't able to figure that out?
The living green.
It's like actual green
Well,
walls, not
we
trees.
could leave real green walls, but that is a maintenance, and you have to.
It's a maintenance issue.
Yeah. It's a lot of work, and I'll gladly show you. I'm sorry I don't have that sample here with me tonight. That
Okay.
that we can do something that's a little bit more practical. Next slide, please. And this gives you a sense of what we would like to do with the exterior courtyard. It would be a space that's a little bit better to use, easier to use, with some plantings.
Is that right outside the art area? Where is
Correct.
this?
Correct.
Yes. Yep.
No, the art room.
On the upper level.
On the upper level, that little Right now, there's just windows looking out to it, but there's a little.
I've never, never
Oh,
seen it.
no,
Nobody
you haven't
goes out
been
there
out there?
because it's
Right.
like,
We should use it.
yeah.
It's actually a very big
lovely
space.
I think
Can
a
you
bocce
go
court's an
back
excellent
slide
idea.
back?
Yeah,
Can you
it's
go
not that
see
long.
how that's gonna, can.
Oh, this is
ma-
beautiful.
Can, okay. Can
Are
we
these
go one
different
slide back or
versions
it's
that
not
we're
possible?
looking at? No. It's not
Do you
possible.
want to go back a slide?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go, Maddie, yeah, okay.
Okay, on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
So this is kind of imaginary image of art room. So this is the art room with the new
That's what it
proposed
says,
access to the
Debbie's.
courtyard. New glass wall with the glass doors, and that's the connection of the art room for that courtyard, which nobody sees right now because.
Oh, it's great. Did
Did
you guys figure out, so the problem when you go out there, that's again, that's where the dentist to meet, like that
Mhm.
big open. There's the double door next to the wall rather than more open. When you're out there, there's so many trucks going through, even though there are trees there. So is the solution on the next side, like is there a sound thing, or should we just be putting more trees up so that because it's also noisy out there. Was there a solution for that, or there just isn't?
There is a solution for rating of the new glass wall and glass doors. I mean, that could
That
be
will-
rated and rated.
But on the outside.
On the outside, the noise, that's
outside
not
is
much, huh?
More trees.
Yeah,
That's
More
the
trees?
solution.
so there are a couple of things. First of all, we understand that 9W will be reduced in width. That may reduce the speed of traffic and maybe not the volume probably of traffic.
I'm okay if you just say, we don't have a solution here for the trucks that pass. It's about 8 feet probably high. They just make noise. There,
It's
if you
not
don't have a
just the difference.
solution for this, let's not talk about having less traffic because there's still traffic. It's okay. The answer is no, put more trees in.
Trees.
That's how you, I'm
Trees.
okay with that.
Trees.
I just.
The
I'm
answer is
asking.
trees.
That's all I'm
Yeah.
asking.
The next slide, please.
Yeah, this is beautiful. It's beautiful.
And the
At
next
least I
slide.
think
Nice
so.
place for a party.
Absolutely.
Could
Yeah.
rent it out for parties.
Well, I think it's designed like the seniors, right? That art room gets used. There's also the seniors that can sit out. We talked about this when we did. the
Seniors
walk.
after school, there's some small scale gardening going out there with the grandpa's program. So it is used, but the utility of it
But this
going
really,
forward will transform it
Very nice.
dramatically.
very nice.
Please.
You have to come up to the mic, or they have the mic though.
Walkthrough for the HVAC and the roof. So on that building, and then for the police station, the roof. You have in that art room, you have the skylight. I know that'll come up as a question tomorrow. When we're just talking about the design, is the ultimate goal to keep that still open and you would look through and have that light coming in?
I would like to
Okay.
encourage it.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine, because
High, up there in the ceiling and it's vertical.
Yep.
Yes, but
okay.
Yeah.
we hope that we will keep it. I
Yeah.
mean, we-
All right, so it's just those
It's
are
the only
that's-
shared lighting in there, so.
Yeah.
I don't want to give misinformation. We take it out and then that wasn't, it's a change order, so it's
Yeah.
fine. Okay, good. Thanks.
Listen, there is a little bit of, we thought about it in the sense how to divide the room, and because of that kind of elevated ceiling and the skylight, we kind of opted out of this, rather keep the light than
Yeah,
compartmentalize it.
very nice.
So this is a recap slide, which just gives you images related to the various areas to give you a sense of what this
Addie, maybe you
would
could
look like.
enlarge a little bit.
These are all the pictures from before into
Right,
one.
kind
Yeah.
of recap.
Maybe, focus on the, sort of the areas that these
So
are
very
relating
little
to.
carpeting, even commercial carpeting. It's synthetic wood and what's the other material? they use?
LVL, a luxury vinyl.
So it's vinyl.
tiles,
Yeah.
right, luxury vinyl, which mostly look like a wood or could look like a stone. but
Or
we kind of
concrete, yeah, they
create
can
that
look
wood
like anything.
forms.
Got
it.
Put it this
So
way.
it's the
Throughout
idea
whole
that,
renovation.
that the cinder block walls that are down there now would become more glass? Is that the idea or? Those, I don't know if those are
M-
supporting.
Most
walls,
of the
but-
walls would be taken out and replaced with glass walls wherever we can. Yes.
To
If
the
you look
degree
at-
possible. Can I just, so right now, when you have the game room and it's open, the idea is to put glass walls along the, that open side of the
Right.
game room where you have that weird little wooden railing.
Yeah.
That would be, so then you can use, and then you'd have an accordion wall inside, so you could create two meeting rooms, two study rooms, two rooms for youth bureau, whatever it is. Then where the youth bureau is now, where we had the Go TV stuff, those concrete walls would be replaced with glass walls. So right now because that's like a basement type of a facility where
Yeah.
you don't have any ability to have exterior windows, we'd create interior windows that would then brighten the space. And so wherever we can to make things feel less concrete dungeon-like, we'd be moving those and putting the glass walls, which is probably like the most transformative change of
Oh,
everything,
100%.
so-
And the floors,
yeah.
like the whole look of it.
That's
And
right.
what?
And light,
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
It-
Well,
It's
so
gonna
basically
dramatically
everything.
improve the lighting.
That's
I-
right. In the ceilings will, instead of like a sea of the acoustical tiles, it will be a variety of
Understood. Very
different
nice.
materials incorporating acoustical panels, because acoustics, as we already noted, is going to be an issue.
Yeah.
And we know that some of you were at the stakeholder meetings, the initial ones we had with the Youth Advisory Board and the Youth Council. So our certainly loudest contingency on needs was probably the Youth Council. And I think we got a lot of yeses for what they wanted in an efficient way. Not everything, but one of the best things is that with the increased program space in what is now the museum area, the after-school program doesn't have to run in the rec area anymore, the recreation room downstairs. And that means we can go back to having a place where kids, from middle school and high school can come after school and, study or throw their, play pool or whatever it is they're going to do, or maybe go upstairs and play bocce. I don't know. But that's, I think, a big win for optimizing the space.
Yeah. So I agree. The only thing I will say is, looking at the stakeholders, I'm not sure that the seniors and the families had an equal representation. So the senior,
Point.
the food is but one element. It belongs to the town. There's a grant. We've had it for many years. I'm sure we'll have. Community centers are really multi-generational, and it's positioned that way. And we also have a very large, and I expect it to increase, aging in place communities, right? So seniors do use these facilities because it's a place for them to meet, right? Each other,
Sure.
which is different than what youth. So I appreciate, but I'm not sure that when you look at the stakeholders, first of all, most of the stakeholders are staff members, not necessarily community members, which is fine because they know what's going on. They know who swims, exactly when they swim. They know everybody by name. So those are good stakeholders. But I'm not seeing a lot of family, and I'm not seeing a lot of seniors, except for a program. Tons of potential, though. The gathering place, the elevators in the right place, the openness, we have winter for 3 or 4 months. It's so depressing. So a lot of that. But, and I know you mentioned it's not a conference room, it's a gathering room. Thank you for saying that. It looks like a conference room. It's not supposed to be a conference room. A seniors program can go there. So I just want us to remember that the loudest, wheel does not get the oil in government.
Correct.
That's also, I was at that meeting, and on one hand, that's great. On the other hand, seniors don't show up to these meetings, but they do attend a lot of this stuff.
we
So we just
are-
want to make sure they're
we-
being represented.
Absolutely. And I think the RAB did a good job of doing that, in the program staff that runs those programs.
Good.
I just want to say, this was staff driven.
Yep.
Because we couldn't really go to the public until we knew we could
Yeah.
fit pretty much something, based on the original input from the DRI, which we did a fair amount of community input
Yeah.
for that. we synthesized it and then gave it to the staff to say, okay, how are we going to make this work in the space? The next two sessions that we want to do are with the public, and we will identify ways to get the seniors out. And if we have to meet with seniors, like I'm happy to go to the senior nutrition
I
program and talk
actually
about
think the
it too.
staff can represent them. I'm just,
Yeah.
you know my feeling in government in general.
Exactly
The
right.
yellers and the screamers and the more of them is exactly not who should get everything. That's not how
So,
government should
we-
work.
yeah.
So we're like, it's a multi-generational state. I will say, if you're gonna go to the public, you need to do before and after. Unlike my colleagues over here who could look at this site and understand it all, this is difficult, I mean, just visually for me. So having a before and after, I mean, would go such a long way for people who may not, they'll look and go, oh my God, of course, that's where the pool tables are. Now it's gonna be
We
this. It's
actually
gonna
want
be
to
a
do
big
it on
win.
this at site so that, we
Well,
have to
that's great.
sort of work it out. But what we would like to do is, in April, do like one evening from 6 to 9 and then one Saturday morning from like 10 to
Sure.
12 or something. But where we could have staff in different rooms so that we can, be looking at those rooms with examples of the type of flooring, the type of, and then also get feedback that the staff can then absorb for uses of the space, so that way, we can get that input without starting from ground zero, because the reality is we've gotten a lot of feedback from the public. It's just, there's been years in between and we have to educate, bring everybody up to speed with where we've gotten
great.
with that input and now what's next. So hopefully we can capture more of that and get a more diverse group of actual users of the site.
I think it's great. It's only better than what it is today. I mean, the staircases alone, you had me with those. First, I mean, I get lost trying to actually follow the staircases. Are any outside walls being touched? Like, that wall by the pool area where those doors have a piece of wood in front of them or did have a piece of wood that go out? The game room. Thank you, Andy. See, Andy knows what I'm talking about.
The emergency
you
door in the
touching-
game room,
Well, that's not
in the
emergency door.
recreation.
There's a piece of plywood over it.
It was an emergency door.
Okay, but my
It's
point
maybe
is,
not great as
are we taking advantage and doing something? Put a window there for all I care. But are we taking advantage of
It
any
doesn't
outside
look-
wall or nothing?
On the lower level in the recreation room,
You
there's
probably
a
didn't even
door.
notice it.
To the side. To the
Yes.
front.
Yeah.
Well, it has to, well, we have to put the emergency door. I mean, we need the second means of egress there, okay, so, but.
You'll
if-
figure it out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay,
those are
so
the
this would be
doors.
an opportunity, but no outside wall is being touched.
No, at this point,
Okay, I'm just asking, okay.
Except we explore the opportunity to extend the
the recreation room.
recreation room where it meets the plaza, there is a huge.
Oh, that slanting that's
exactly,
supposed to be
so-
for people sitting, that not people, oh,
Right,
that's
and
what
so
it's there
we-
for? Okay,
We're
the
planning,
brick area.
exactly, some,
It's somewhat of a budget consideration.
Yeah.
And maybe we could do it as an ad alternate in the budget, but right now, the footings there aren't as sufficient, in my understanding,
Correct.
to extend
Exactly.
and keep the roof the way it is.
All right,
But, I mean, with money, you could do everything, but we figure, let's cover all these.
well,
pieces
it's
and then,
endless.
you know.
We're staying. Okay, so no exterior doors unless it's needed for something. This is
Right.
all interior, the lighting, the flooring, the ceilings, elevator stay except for one, more storage, event room, got it, all done. And the kitchen is not being touched either, because that was just done, I think. Okay,
Correct.
doors in the courtyard and emergency doors is needed. I mean, because.
well, that's
a good
a different
again,
issue, but
so
yeah.
those things
Okay.
like, where Section 8 office will be, I mean, I think need to be revamped. Exit from recreation room, courtyard doors, I mean,
That should all be in the.
it's
budget, I think.
necessary.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
mean, everything obviously is, we, based on the analysis that, Jocelyn and Julia have done so far, is we believe that this is within budget, but, until we get the final design,
Right.
we're working on a design that we know should be able to be done within budget, and then
That's
maybe,
fine, that's cool. I mean, it looks great. I mean, I think it's fine. What do I know, right? I'm an architect. Great. I'm sorry. Keep going.
So let's go one more slide, please.
About 15 years ago, that door was blocked off because when the students and kids were there, they were allowing people to come through. They'd open the door
Oh.
for their friends. So obviously, as you guys want one entrance and you want security, that would need to be egress like a panic
Yeah.
situation.
With an alarm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can put a lot.
And probably we want to incorporate, which Bill just reminded me, a master key setup for everything. So that,
You guys
Be-
will figure that. I mean, you
Yeah,
could have
that's-
told me
it's important.
you're putting a glass window there. I would have been fine with that too. I mean, it's,
I
I'm
think-
just asking
I think
whether
we do
any,
need an emergency. exit,
every,
but
every,
it has to be
we're
a.
not touching the outdoors, et cetera. Okay.
So this is the upper level plan. Again, this just reminds you of the items we've spoken about, how we will open the courtyard in the upper left corner so that you can look towards the courtyard from the atrium. In the upper right, you see the proposed wall to,
Maddie, maybe you could make it a little bigger on the, and just on the lower part too. Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
So, again, we would like to open the area where the museum, Sing Sing Museum used to be, and have the wall, glass wall there. And then finally, on the left side, you see again, the suggestion of what a view towards the administrative area will be. The music room will stay in the same area. You see some of the materials on the left side. We'll have a separate presentation of all of those materials later on.
Is that it?
Next slide, please.
Offices, you can say that.
Got it.
So what you see here are some of the small items, low-cost items, but we would like to introduce them. A little playground as part of the courtyard on the right-hand side. Up on the top, you might consider what we call an empowerment garden, which is really just a small garden for the children and the teens to grow something in the spring. On the left-hand side, we'll engage our landscape architect to work with us in identifying the plants and perhaps a configuration that would attract the butterflies or the birds. You already have the water, plenty of it down in the Kill. And we would like to, within a reason, bring people closer to the entrance into the Kill Park. So those are the few items that we'd like to do on the
What's
outside.
Bottom left, that's in the red marked area. It doesn't have an, you have the butterfly
Right.
underneath
So-
it. What is
So that would be an entrance into the Kill. That's where it is presently. We would just like to emphasize that entrance and make it more visible.
Oh, got it. Okay, that's the only thing not marked in your.
but that would be more with landscaping too.
Correct.
Yeah,
Not,
yeah.
nothing very
Maybe
expensive.
Peaceful garden one day. Look, right there.
You know, my favorite outdoor spot is behind the pool along the Kill. There's this two small patio areas and you can really hear the water burbling there. I mean, you should do like yoga classes or something out there because it's so serene. Have you stood out there and heard
Wait,
it?
where was
The
that?
last time I was there, there was construction there. So
Oh,
maybe I
so
didn't
you, it was
appreciate it.
noisy. But on a quiet day, you can really hear the water running beneath and it's really peaceful.
We also looked at, in conjunction with the road diet, when you have parking along the side of the street there on Route 9. And it may not be something we can necessarily do with this because I think there'd be some grading issues and might be a separate project, but creating pathways from Route 9 that could go down so that you could have a pathway that sort of goes around the outside the pool area where the empowerment garden is, and then you could walk down and that could lead you to the Sing Sing Hill walkway if you're walking up Route 9 or you want to blend it in and cross over from the Aqueduct Trail. And we could do wayfinding signage that could be kind of cool. So those are things that there's a lot we can do once we get all of these projects in line, even if the budget for this project really is focused on the inside of the building. But ultimately, there's other things we can do to enhance walkability and the Kill and, take advantage of the fact that we'll now have more parking on Route 9.
Very nice.
And I think we have one more slide. So this is just a recap of what the forthcoming community outreach 2 meetings that are planned. And then obviously our work on the final construction documents.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we interrupted you enough times, but I got so excited there. I've been thinking about this project for 5 years, just so you know. So it's my first time of actually personally seeing like something that looks like that I could, yes, that I can understand is a polite way of saying it. So before you open it to the board, anybody want to add anything that they may have left out that we should be thinking about? Like I'm thinking rolling tables, so you have enough staff that's gonna roll tables as different programs start that we should be thinking about. Maybe we'll get some of those tables in here one day.
I just think that things that we having flexibility to do different types of programming in all the different areas, and that's really what they.
Bill, I'm sorry, we can't really hear you at all.
But maybe I turn it on.
There you go.
So that's one of the things that's going to be really good. So when you were even talking about seniors before, seniors are not just in that nutritional room during the day. They're in other rooms doing exercise programs, gardening programs, yoga, throughout the building. So that's what'll be happening. But at 3 o'clock, that room, tables will go up, little tables will come out, and it's the pre-K and the K1 kids that are in there out onto the patio where the seniors might have been having tea and gardening going on that morning or that afternoon. The kids will be out there playing on the playground and running around. So this design throughout the building gives us that flexibility, which is going to greatly enhance the programming that we can offer. So
Great. Very nice. Okay, Andy was fine. You're good.
just want to add to that
Microphone. There we go. Yeah.
You need to turn it so the like, yeah.
Yeah, I think the flexibility, just like Bill mentioned, will come in handy because we know that in the evenings, late afternoons, the youths, they get out from school and they can use the space at that time, especially if in the morning and in the daytime, the seniors or any other activities, meetings, community meetings can happen in the same space. So having a great flexibility and to be able to fit in all of those different groups at different timing will be great.
Very nice. Very exciting. I'm going to start to my left. Any comments? Many comments?
I mean, the concept is, it's beautiful. I love the glass. The only question I have about the glass, have you ever thought of the, like in a certain office or something, you have glass of the privacy glass, the smoke glass that smokes out. So if they have a meeting and they could just hit the switch, it smokes the glass. I'm just throwing it out there. I've seen it 100 times.
Yes, we can do that.
Um,
There is some cost to it, but
Right.
if it's
Even if it's
necessary.
Sounds expensive. Sounds expensive.
Not that
I
bad.
have an office that has,
not that
they
bad.
actually just lined it. It's not even in the glass.
It's
on
expensive if you
sheets.
do it after the fact.
Yeah.
If you're doing it now with a whole redesign, it makes sense.
I think
It's
there's
not
a
every,
lot of ways.
glass
Right.
wall,
It'll
just
be
certain
just here and
offices
there,
or the
Okay.
gathering room, whatever, up for discussion. The folding tables. There's not going to be issues as far as storage of these tables, right? Or are they going to be, do you have something in mind? Because they're going to fold up and they're going to stack up.
Yeah, so I think that those can be moved within the rooms. That's the idea of it. So
Right.
Most centers I've been into, like the chairs are stacked up in the corner on a cart and you need them, you wheel them out, you put them there. If you got something going on and you need to get those carts out of there, you can get everything out of the room because it's mobile. You need
Right.
more tables in another room, we can bring them into there. So,
Okay.
yeah.
We were thinking about this furniture, like comes in that stackable storage system.
Yes.
They come as
Yeah.
a system.
There's a system, but
It
where are
makes
you
sense.
putting that system? Because you're taking up square footage.
We did actually, we didn't show this, but we did leave some areas besides the stage. There are several areas in large rooms for storage.
Okay, great.
But-
And the last thing is, are you involved with any part of the design with like a security system that's going there? Or is that something that's somebody else?
That would usually be the town vendor, separate vendor. We
Yeah.
don't have that expertise. We can work with them to incorporate
Right.
it in a project. It's a good point, but
We,
it would
we,
usually-
we didn't talk about it at this stage, but we do want to incorporate, we probably want to look at cameras and things. And I think maybe early on we talked about it. We've been really focused on trying to get the programs right, but I think that is something that, we'll give consideration to also when we're looking at
Right,
at
and
the complete, picture,
And
but
to add on to that, I'm gonna talk about the fire alarm system.
yeah, well,
Because
that,
now I could see it's gonna be a busy place
yeah.
and we get multiple false alarms there. Right, Bill? It has to be upgraded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're
Okay.
gonna have to look at those things, but obviously, we'd want to have a good security system and a good alarm system. So I think that's, those are things that, along with the other work that we're doing around the center, will incorporate in the project.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks. Like the mayor, I'm very happy to see where this is going after 5 years of discussion. When we first started talking about this at the rec advisory board.
Yeah.
for
you were on
the-
the same committee.
So just, where it's going to me makes a lot of sense. I do like the modularity. I do like the ability to have, the meeting space on the ground floor, the flexible space and the current room where, the recreation room, right? And the flexibility to use that for multiple programming things at different times, I think will be great. Like I know several of the youth sports organizations, like they need places for meetings. And so they're, like these are the kind of places where the evening you can use some of these for that. And, as long as everything's in the reservation system and then, there's you're going to have it's going to be a busier place to keep track of who's coming and going and who's reserving and things like that. I would like to, I'm very glad at the way you're incorporating the patio. I think that's, that's a great and definitely an underused space. I'm in the add trees category for sound,
Yeah.
not necessarily trees, but whatever the green kind of 20-foot kind of pineish,
Arborvitae or
right,
something like that.
arborvitae kind of stuff, right?
Fine.
That'll also provide some privacy.
Yeah.
Because I agree with the access, long-term, the access provision around, a walkway coming down from Route 9 that goes behind the building. And around that way, right? I'd rather direct it behind there as opposed to closer to the outdoor space where people could be, kids could be playing and stuff like that. So from that perspective. What was the other kind of question I had? Oh, yeah, I think the only other thought that I had was, and I don't know if this is even possible, but the program space that is currently the museum space, right? It would be kind of neat if there was a way to split that up even potentially to two spaces. Because I do think that when you take out that interior wall, that's probably a 30 by 20 space, something like that, where, that might be an opportunity to put an accordion wall. Well, I mean, I do think you can, I do think there are ways to, like, there's a little entrance way, but you might be able to go left. There might be something creative from that perspective.
Yeah, we can,
Which-
I don't see any
Which
reason
just
why not.
increases still like the evening opportunity pieces. And then the last piece, as I was thinking about it, today, for the youth advisory, for the, the youth bureau and also for you, Bill, I do think that with more space and more programming, I think you should be thinking about adding some capital lines in next year's budget for just like all the miscellaneous stuff that's not necessarily gonna be covered as part of the DRI grant, right? Like, I think there's gonna be a bunch of stuff and, maybe there's a line in next year's budget, which would kind of put you ahead of that curve. So,
It's a community center.
yeah, exactly, right.
It's not extra.
Yeah, no,
Put
but.
that in and won't get something
But
else.
working it,
It's, yeah.
working it in ahead of time.
Looking at some grant opportunities too that the governor just put out for parks, so.
Yeah.
We might be able to.
Get something from that.
Do something, maybe if we can get some more park money, then that's money that we can reinvest.
Well, you might get a playground money, you might get a garden money. I mean, there are different pieces that maybe we're able, youth bureau, there might be just some pieces that. Go ahead. Did you have something?
About the courtyard area outside the main entrance between the pool and is that in your plans as well?
It's on our plan to keep it.
It's not that
generally like
big.
It is.
Yeah.
There is some repairs are planned, because the pavement are a little wavy,
Yeah.
and so we have a little allowance for repair and kind of refurbish the pavement and extend it maybe a little bit. That area where we talked about the sill.
Part, like we
Exactly.
may be able to take, like level that out, so you could put, the way there's chairs and tables, you could put some chairs or something under there and it's got a little shelf, it's
Yeah.
like a little awning. But that, again, it's budget,
It's
budget.
budget, we considered it, it's about 12 feet deep, so it's not a tiny little thing,
It might be
it
more
would be
usable
thrown.
though if it's all level.
Right.
Honestly, we would love to perhaps improve that whole area. But again, it's a matter of choice.
Yeah, we have to,
So-
yeah. Okay, but it's something to think about.
I
It
think-
also could be planned and done at a different time.
Well, it's more visible than the courtyard off the back.
Well, the courtyard at the back needs more work. It
Mhm.
just physically needs more work. I think that the courtyard, fixing, maybe resetting some of the pavement and things. There's probably a lot you could do, and this might be something where our friends in placemaking, like, some of those planters, things like that could give it a lot more
That's true.
curb
Yeah.
appeal
Mhm.
within a budget or something that we can
Yeah.
do separately. And then this is like, I think you have to look at this. This is the basic remodel, like you've waited, you're finally getting rid of your 1970s paneling and you're getting a new place and you're going to do it. And then you're going to be like, oh, we're going to have to do this and this and this. So I think obviously things.
Well, it
will go
doesn't
from
end.
that,
Yeah.
but this is going to be a big hit on the most labor intensive, the most expensive part of it. And then hopefully the rest of it, maybe some nice throw pillows and things will jazz it up.
Some Zodiac posters, blacklight, yeah, my rec room, in the 70s. The section 8 offices, you had said the upstairs entrance may become the main entrance to the new section 8 offices. That is currently, Bill, where your offices are. So you guys, okay, that would become,
Yeah.
and then that front, the desk that you used to check in at, would the desk
That's
go
all
away?
gonna be administrative space.
It's all gone.
Meeting space, administrative
Mhm.
space. So there would be really no reason, even now, there's really no reason to have the check-in up there. Because even now, since COVID, we've really still, most people are coming into the center downstairs.
The only thing I would say is if you park though up there and you want to go to the
Mhm.
rec center, not section 8, you got to walk down that slippery little hill.
We're gonna try to move, I think we're gonna try to park more staff on the upper level. And then try to maximize parking on the lower level. And we could look at steps too. Right now, I mean, because sometimes that sometimes it's open, but if staff's there, but a lot of times it's locked anyway.
Yeah,
right
it
now.
is.
Yeah.
But some people go there, you go there accidentally if they don't know, they think that's the main entrance and, oh, it's not. How do I get, where's the other one? Oh, it's down this little slippery
Well,
hill.
that'll become more obvious.
Yeah, so we because we are so busy and parking is a problem there. So we have been having the staff park up in that upper lot, opening up more spots down below. Even on busier days, like Tuesdays and Wednesdays, having staff park across the street
Yeah.
into that municipal lot there, just to open up more spots. It is, for the seniors when there isn't parking down below. So I know they'll come to that door and we'll let them in,
Mhm.
when we see them because they have a exercise class and then, we'll tell them they can get their exercise walking around jokingly, but we let them in through that way
We
because
we
it's
don't want
easier
them
to
to
do.
fall
Right.
either. So, and
Yeah.
we are looking at ways to maybe, that's another area, the connection between the upper level and the lower level. It still might be a walk, but ultimately may be able to put some stairs there. Or
You could also park all the vans and all the other things up there rather than where they're being parked right now. I mean, no? What am I saying? Something?
We could use a charging station up there.
Well,
That's
whatever, whether there's a charging station or not, so the vans that take up so much space.
Yeah.
I mean, I think then it becomes obvious and you put a sign that says, employee or handicap, whatever, and you could do a handicap entrance specific. But I mean, I think these are details you guys need to work through based on who your users are.
Right.
To
Yep.
Dana's point.
But one thing I would like to your security concern, that, I mean, it would be really beneficial for security to have a single point of entrance. So your main entry is
Yeah.
down on the lower level, so
Mhm.
everybody there. I mean, up there is an exit, I mean, it's required and accidental, like Section 8 offices. I mean,
There'll be a buzzer
target
for
it.
Section 8 too, so that won't be for security reasons. That won't be, so there'll be a buzzer and probably a camera system for Section 8.
Well, it's better than what they
So-
have now, to be honest with you. Right
Yeah.
now, it's very hidden. This is 10 times better. And frankly, it was originally built that way, that it's downstairs, whether it was for security or not. It just was more logical than that, I think, is the overflow, the upper one. That's not the
Right.
main, that was the overflow, I think.
I mean, I think partly too, as the center was renovated, things changed.
Yeah.
But I think the utility of it we can facilitate
Right.
based on our audiences, based on, we may even decide that we want to incorporate, handicap spaces on the lower level, which would encourage people with mobility issues to be able to park closer so they wouldn't feel that they had to park up at the top. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do. I think parking is a little tight there and, this is an aside, but, as we, some parking lots, you have to have a parking pass and we may have to start doing that there so that, if you're a member in certain spaces, you don't necessarily have to charge for it, but you need to have that pass because we do have people who are parking there who aren't going to the community center and
Right.
parking there all day. So those are things we're gonna have to figure out too.
You're gonna have to, I think, spend a year looking at who's using what, how, and frankly, once the parking garage is built, the staff maybe should be parking there and not right in front of the door. There's no reason you can't walk 100 yards. It's
Right.
not a long walk from across the street. But these are details. This is not an architectural. I think it's important to look at it, and figure out what you want to do, based on actual usage. So I think this is great. Is there anything else, Dana?
One quick thing. I know when we met down there, I discussed about the rear. What brought it back to my mind was the discussion about the rear courtyard, where the main entrance is going to be, and the possibility of maybe putting a small deck up there. That is right behind where the cafe, that's not a cafe, correct? And I'm just for another added outside space. So if you want to go have a cup of coffee and sit out on the deck, doesn't have to be cover the whole thing. I mean, as an add alternate, with a deck, without a deck, with plantings, as an add alternate into there. That's all.
These
Just
are
so we have,
ideas.
these are
Yeah.
ideas that so at least we have a target to look at.
When
Yeah.
you say deck, just from my understanding, you don't mean just a flat deck on which the tables and
No,
chairs are,
the
but,
elevated deck at the second level,
oh, the elevator. Oh,
An
yeah, yeah,
elevated
yeah.
deck.
Yes, you did mention.
Right?
that.
Remember we
That's
talked
correct.
about that?
Yep, absolutely.
an elevated deck with a door to go inside and tables out there. If people want to go out and have their coffee or read a book or whatever they want to do, they've got another outside space and they're not too far if they have to go get another cup of coffee. It's
And
an
that would be a
idea.
nice space, yeah.
There's a
Okay.
lot of room there. That
Correct.
seems to me being wasted.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay, I think we've covered most of, I mean, look, a community center, especially if you start thinking cameras and all that, is endless. I think we're now gonna have to figure out furniture maintenance that we don't do today. My one pet peeve about all community centers, well, not all, is the number of 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper with disgusting scotch tape that gets put on every single wall, promoting every single whatever. And in this plan, there has to be a way to keep all those posters from the bathroom stalls, and every person who decides they're just gonna use, masking tape that then is disgusting. Every event, every piece of information, all the stuff you guys tape on the doors, it makes the place just look disorganized, ugly, littered, which would be a shame to do that after you do all this work. So there has to be a way to create a merchandising system, which are very inexpensive, frankly, only because I did this for my career for about 2 years for Chase, where I did 600 branches with this stuff. So I'm pretty familiar with all the different mechanisms to exactly solve for these problems. And I know you don't want it. You don't want to, and then you have to walk around taking all the old ones down. So the walls have to be done in a way that you have to create space for people, not bulletin boards, but modern mechanisms to put these 8.5 by 11 posters or whatever people need to put up so they don't create their own merchandising as they want to share information. And the glass door, there's going to be so much glass now. I have this nightmare that now we're going to have masking tape. You'll be standing there with some razor taking off tape off of these very nice glass walls because everybody's taping, the next thing that they want to promote. So I think you guys need to work on that.
Yeah, definitely.
I just don't see it in the drawings. That doesn't mean you
Right.
haven't thought about
I
it.
think one of the things that they mentioned is, the use of like smart TVs around. And just as we have the digital signboard outside, you can run those flyers that are made digitally, and they can be through the center and not have to print those flyers and tack them up somewhere. So
Yeah, you're going to have to still do that because let me tell you that
Yeah.
these things, because yoga at 8 p.m. today has been changed to is going to be taped to the front door with an ugly and
yeah,
straight down the wall with arrows and
Right.
red and black and markers on these, especially because you're putting so much glass. And nobody stands in front of these things and waits for it to turn, 30 messages. Nobody's standing there for 20 minutes to look for messages. So no matter what you do, you're going to have to find a system to avoid and not allow people to just put stuff up. If you don't do it, people will do it anyway. So you want to, you see the door when you walk in with all the, right? The only other thing that, I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm sure you'll take care of this. We run elections through there. There's a line is upstairs. So, I think you're going to have to say, these are the 48 things that happen here on a yearly basis. In addition to the programs, how do we deal with it? I would also consider how do food trucks enter and exit? Because that parking lot with because I think you're going to end up having food trucks at some point instead of the food, because if you look at families, it's very difficult for a parent with 2 kids, one at 9:30 and one at 11. They can't leave. They have to stay with their young children and there's no place for them to stand. So there might be lunchtime for the staff. It would be nice for people to walk into town, but you might want to look at some of these things on the outside, which is what I thought might be nice on that space, to be able to have a ramp that they could actually park there, because you could sit around there. These are ideas. You don't have to do any of this, right? Bob was mentioning, so these are like that space, all I think about a little ramp, it takes up one space, I understand, but maybe for food trucks, it doesn't. Because when we do have an event, the trucks and stuff take up, you can't really turn, it's dangerous. So these are small ideas. Just thoughts about how the place gets used. That's all, it's, do with it as you wish. It's just an idea.
I'm sure the taco boys would love a little spot to set up the truck.
It'd be nice to have an ice cream truck there in the summer. Okay, well, this is very exciting.
Nyack,
okay.
Nyack, New York. We do have another office in Simsbury, Connecticut, and
Okay.
another one
So you're
in
just across the river.
Bohemia on Long Island, but the 2 of us are from Nyack.
Yeah, I
Okay.
went to the JCC across the river
Yeah.
with very similar elements, which is very practical. And the people, and you did that years ago, they're very happy except for the lighting. Not your fault. That was a mistake, but they were so honest with me. But I forgot that you did Westchester Community College at some
Yeah.
point.
Yes.
Which part? Because they have done so much work in that
Student-
facility. What
So
exactly did you guys do?
the Student Center cafeteria, if you know where it is.
Yes, I do.
Right, so we expanded that cafeteria out and then connected it with the bookstore
Okay,
and then redid a portion of the Culinary Arts Center.
great. I only asked this for the record because Karen, when we do like meetings, it would be nice to put a little list and say, if you're ever there and you look, because I think when you, at least for people like me who don't look at maps well, is to be able to go to a place and say, oh man, that furniture and the way you did that. That would, I get it. Like, I totally understand what you have in mind, like those staircases. When I saw them, I totally understand what you guys are doing. So we should just mention to people that if they want to go and look at Westchester Community College, not far from here, we might be able to get people very involved, like even the placemaking. They want to go see what these guys did, because what they already did would be easier than inventing a new world. You know, and Westchester Community has spent millions on renovating that facility. I mean, their entire campus.
Yep.
Wonderful, very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And, thank you. I do want to say we meet bi-weekly with Gazin and Julia for some time now, as well as our team here and some other members of staff who aren't here tonight. But they've been a pleasure to work with and very accommodating with our many ideas that we've had and then changed and then had over the time. And I do want to acknowledge the enormous amount of time and effort our staff has put into this too, including John Heitman, who really have informed this presentation and have got us to where we are today.
That's
So,
great. All very good stuff.
Can I get in one question?
Sure.
All right, I'll get in one question. Hi, I'm Omar. Nice to meet you. I'll get on the mic. So folks can
He's
hear
been
me.
listening to the meeting.
Yeah, so. You mentioned all of the different kinds of audiences, and particularly the mayor was mentioning who are the audiences that aren't as voiced in the needs of the space. To build off of something that you said,
Sure.
Mayor. Parents, particularly of young children, I happen to be one of these folks. Particularly in the cold weather, which is a lot of the time of year, what you're looking for, it just doesn't exist. It's just an open space that is open anywhere in the village on a weekend early. These little people wake up early. Where are you gonna go? You can't take them to a park. It's 30 degrees. It's dark. Where are you gonna go? So you're spending a bunch of money, or you hope to use a community center, but it's not really set up in that way. So as you're thinking about all the different audiences during the week, the weekend, particularly non-program time and kind of more open spaces, what are spaces where you can have these little people running around?
We're naming it the Omar Center, apparently.
So I'm looking at
It's act-
Bill to
yeah.
start like an intramural program for pre-K people in the gym early in the morning.
But
And
we-
we'll have to beat out the pickleball people.
We,
so.
we do have a lot of rainy days, and I would love to see intergenerational, but thank you for bringing it up. That was actually, my food truck is actually not for dinners. They're actually for the early, because, when I travel, I noticed that in many cultures, all these coffee things and all these places, actually it's early morning that people go to the coffee trucks, not actually the dinner part. It depends where you're traveling. So it'd be really cool, right? So
You
people
could do
can that.
breakfast with Omar.
There we go.
Right?
There we go. But anyway, so, well, I think it's all about the kids. If he could just leave them there and then play basketball, or something he probably would rather, or pickleball. Great. So you have some ideas. We're not expecting you to do them all, but, it's great. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Chima and Andy and Bill as well. Thank you.
We're losing our entire audience here. Yeah, you could just leave it down there.
They were here.
Okay, what's next? I need to get some more. It is exciting. Yeah, Karen, honestly, on record, off record, we were just saying, it's just to see it, like live and in color, and they're just so mellow, it's no, is just the new furniture and the light coming through is gonna be really, I think, exciting for people. I know the pool is a big thing for people and the spray thing, the spray, indoor spray, people are excited, but it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
It's long overdue.
It's good.
It's really great space to work with.
Yeah.
It's just right now.
Not
it's
so great now.
It's not
Yeah.
inviting, it's shabby, it just, so we're really happy about this and everybody's really been it was fun working on a parking garage, but I have to say this was a little bit more.
Well, even the outdoor
But
space.
the parking structure was fun too. I
Yeah,
don't want to
even the
say,
outdoor space, I just think what they
Multiple-
did with it is so pretty. If
Yeah.
it looks like that, I know it's a rendering. If it looks like that, that'll be amazing. Anyway, let's move on.
Okay, so next two items are resolutions. We want to talk about resolutions that we can present at next week's meeting. So,
Special session tonight.
oh, at the special session tonight. I'm sorry, we have a special meeting tonight. So these are things we can vote on tonight. I forgot. So the first is a resolution that we would be joining with other Westchester communities. And this is to retain special counsel regarding Con Ed's proposed rate increase. So right now, I think they have 18 municipalities are signed up, and they do expect to get the 20 that they would require, and this would require a $5,000 contribution from the village.
I think you're on B, right? Hiring of Joel Dichter.
Yeah, but.
Yeah. Where are you?
I'm on
you're
I'm
over
on the
here.
work
Okay.
session. So this is just to
Alright.
talk about it. And I think you all have gotten a copy of the resolution. So I don't know if there's any questions or comments that you want to make in advance of the special meeting.
For me, it's, well, Bob's still out there. Okay. So for me, I don't think it's that complicated. There are, well, maybe it is. I don't know. Con Ed is increasing its prices, both the delivery prices and the product prices. The former at 25%, the latter at 9 to 12%. They haven't sold, they're asking. A couple of years ago, they raised it 20%. It's an astronomical increase. So much though that I think our legislator, Dana Leverberg, Legislator Shimsky, a number, Pete Harcum, as well, are really opposed to these increases. They're without explanation. New York City actually pays a little bit less of an increase. There has been conversation that the reason New York City does better than us is that they have better lobbyists and better lawyers. And we don't go to the table with lawyers. And it feels very much like a technique that says, we ask, therefore we should receive. Their profits are very high. They're not explaining their cost structure. A 25% increase on delivery to me in any industry is outrageous. And it's on the backs of our residents. This is a direct hit to our wallets. You know, you could talk about eggs and you could talk about bread and you could talk about gas, but this is a direct hit. And to the village too, by the way, we also use this and we didn't budget for such an increase, which means we will have to cut back on others. So I received a call, I don't know if the manager, I don't know if other board members, but a few weeks ago, well, we received calls of complaint and it's been in the papers. The county is objecting to this vehemently. There was a press conference. People think that when the county does something, the county then represents all of the municipalities. The way our government works, the county, we don't report to the county. The county has its own parks. We have our parks. All the parks in the county of Westchester don't belong to the county. Only the county parks. Same with police. There's county police. This is the same discussion. Ken Jenkins is vehemently opposed to this and wants to fight this and wants explanations of why such an increase. By the way, their profits are tremendous, so it's not like they're not making money. And so they've hired some attorneys and representation. So municipalities, especially small villages and towns, have decided to try out and actually get our own lawyers and be at the table en masse and from what I heard, the supervisor, I spoke to her right before I walked in here. Liz Feldman had told me that last night the town has passed the same resolution. A number of river towns, we have surpassed as of, I think, this morning, the needed 20 because it's $100,000, but amongst all of us. So now it's $5,000 for an attorney fee for somebody to go in and fight for us, foil for information, sit at the table, understand what's going on, and fight for our rights on behalf of the municipality is a good deal, we think. So we want to take that on. So we'll need to pass a resolution. And we think it's actually going to be closer to 25 to 30 municipalities. And the county, on behalf of the counties also, has already announced that they're fighting this in a big way. So that's the top line. That's that on this particular resolution, which I hope to have the board's unanimous vote, and then we will send it to the appropriate bodies that we need to make this happen. Excuse me, losing my voice.
So I think that's a great summary. I think the only other thing that I would add to that is when I was reading through this, some of the stuff, I believe the way that the increase works is that the utility asks for a certain amount of money, and then the percentage of increase is divided amongst the different municipality, like New York City versus Westchester County. And so really what this is doing is this is giving Westchester County that same seat at the table that New York City has always had in the part where they divvy up who has to pay the $500 million. Right. So I think, for me, it just makes sense in terms of the potential for a better return for us and our constituents. Is just, to me, it just makes sense. It's a no-brainer.
Good, thank you. I'm getting the weight of the board because we're actually going to vote on it tonight. So if everybody's okay, I just want to make sure that people understand, because we can vote another time, but I just want to, please. I know you got the mic.
The two quick things that I would say, because I echo both of your sentiments in agreement, are one, about this specific lawyer. I just don't know. Usually what we do is identify a need and then identify someone to do the work, but here's somebody that has work. And so it's a little bit backwards, but seems all right.
I can answer that.
Please.
Oh, I was going to wait.
By all means.
Oh,
No,
okay.
go.
So there was a Zoom. We just didn't hear about this till after the fact, or at least I didn't. He's done it, this law firm has done it before, and they've been vetted by Hastings and a few others. I did call the mayor. I would have liked, in fact, I just wrote to Stuart this morning, said, like, can you find out about the law firm? We're a little late on that. It's not just us. It's that it happened rather quickly. People made a decision, but this is sort of an expertise. And I think for the investment, and just to be clear, regardless of the size of the municipality, right? So the town's actually a little bit smaller than the village in Austining. It's the same amount. They set down the Zoom. It's impossible to sit there and say, if you have 10,000 people, 12,000, in all fairness, everybody's in. It's all about a seat at the table. It's all about having some expertise, and that's the cap. It's not an hourly whatever. You're right. I asked the same question, but we were invited to the table after some municipalities did their due diligence. We're going in with a trust factor on that, and we'll see.
Yeah. And that's it.
I thought you said you had two
No,
things.
the other
Okay.
ones don't be. Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? What are the reasons on the ideas
For this jacking up the prices.
Honestly, I
No.
can't, the
Yeah.
document was so long, I have no expertise in understanding. I only know, I looked at Legislator Shimsky's discussion about this, and I read hers, and she has like 9 points. At the end of the day, it's all about, this is just too much. It's not that anybody objects to paying, that there's an increase necessary. The profits were very high, and it's a couple of years ago, it was 20%. It's just a very high cost of doing business that she, at least, this is her thing with energy, and Dana Levenberg too, and Pete Harcum has joined. All of them say the same thing. The bottom line is, it's the cost of living and cost of doing business just hasn't gone up enough. Given that 2 years ago was 20%, it's not like they haven't raised prices in 10 years. And it's both product double digit, and then delivery. You're getting a double hit. If you do the math, it's actually a double.
Well, they're kind of a monopoly, right?
Kind of, one would say, yes, but they still have to get approval from the commission.
I think they're like, to probably oversimplify their ask though, with the increased electrification, the capacity building that's required on their end is what's driving this. From their perspective, and that's probably
their
like a
perspective,
very
yeah.
gross or summary of what's driving it. But I did hear from one resident, a single person who got a bill for their studio apartment, which was $87. Which doesn't sound like much, but if you're in a studio apartment, you're probably not using a tremendous amount of electricity. The delivery charge, though, that
Yeah.
they charge on top of it was $157. So literally twice what the cost of the electricity, and that's on somebody who's probably living on a very small fixed income. And not that really, that's one consideration, the pressure it puts on people who are already having a hard time, but the reality is justifying a delivery charge that's higher than your actual usage charge does seem like there's something wrong with this, and I don't know that Con Ed's done a particularly good job of explaining it to the legislators or their constituency.
It's actually written in, there's a lot of documentation on this because it's been, I would say that it's become next to flooding in Mamaroneck and Rye, Ken Jenkins' biggest topic about, so there is information. The document itself, I read like page 1 and honestly couldn't understand it after that, but the bottom line is there. Anybody? Okay, so I think we're good to put this forth so that we can add our name. We're probably number 24 from what I heard this morning, maybe 25, something like that. I think that's about right.
And the next resolution, I'm sorry. The next resolution that we'll be voting on tonight, that you'll be voting on, is the resolution opposing Project Maple, which is the Algonquin frac gas pipeline expansion. And I think this has been talked about for a while now. It is, we all want to diversify our sources of energy and become more locally dependent, I guess, or nationally dependent. I know that's a big issue, but this also has serious environmental consequences as well. And it has a major impact for our region here in the Hudson Valley. So that's also a resolution that you'll be voting on tonight. And if there's no additional comments or questions, we can go on to the special meeting for those votes. And we also have some fire department, new fire members that we have to bring on board officially.
Does anybody have questions on this one? Comments? Everybody's okay? Yeah, it is, but I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Okay.
We have a motion to adjourn to special session, please.
Second,
Who seconded?
Dana?
Oh, okay. So Bob, so it's Pat and Bob.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We're now into special session. It is 9:29 PM. Okay, Resolution A, a resolution opposing Project Maple, the Algonquin fracked gas pipeline expansion via compressor stations and new or previously stopped fossil fuel projects, including the Constitution Pipeline. Whereas New York State is poised to protect New Yorkers' rights to clean air, clean water, and livable climate. And whereas Enbridge Incorporated seeks to expand compressor capacity and pipeline infrastructure along the Algonquin pipeline route and has submitted an open season notice for its proposed natural gas expansion project titled Project Maple on September 12, 2023. And whereas Enbridge may seek permits from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to further build and operate compressor stations along the Algonquin pipeline route in New York including facilities at Stony Point and Southeast, and could increase capacity of the line by up to 500,000 decatherms a day in Ramapo, New York, according to the open season notice. And whereas Enbridge may need New York State agency permits from the Department of Environmental Conservation and/or the Public Service Commission to build out and operate compressor stations and pipeline infrastructure along the Algonquin pipeline route. And whereas the Algonquin pipeline route, Project Maple, would interfere with and negatively impact the Hudson River ecosystem and economy that relies on the tourism and health of those waters. And whereas the pipeline's expansion is in direct conflict with the New York Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act statutory goals, fostering continued reliance on fossil fuels and undermining the state's statutorily required transition to a sustainable and renewable energy future. And whereas the 124-mile-long Constitution pipeline proposal was finally defeated in New York in 2020, after the former governor and New York State Department of Environmental Conservation opposed the proposal, and whereas recent media coverage indicates federal efforts to strike a deal with Governor Hochul to approve the once-defeated Constitution pipeline that would bring dirty fracked gas from Pennsylvania and through the southern tier in New York, thus endangering New Yorkers' air, water, and climate. Now therefore be it resolved, the Village of Ossining urges Governor Hochul to oppose the Algonquin pipeline expansion and the Constitution pipeline. Be it further resolved that Governor Hochul directs her agencies to deny any permits for the expansion of the Algonquin fracked gas pipeline and to deny any permits for the construction of the Constitution pipeline, thereby upholding New York CLCPA and the state's environmental standards and commitment to a sustainable future. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. A resolution authorizing the hiring of Joel R. Dichter of Dichter Law LLC as special counsel to represent participating Westchester municipalities in Con Edison's electric and gas rate case before the Public Service Commission. Whereas on January 31, 2025, Con Edison filed a petition with the New York Public Service Commission to increase electric and gas rates as of January 1, 2026. And whereas under this petition, electric rates would rise by 18%, with residential delivery charges increasing by 25.1%, and natural gas delivery rates rising by 19.1%. And whereas this Con Edison rate proposal comes after an increase of 20% in rates over the past 3 years, and any further significant increases would have negative financial impacts on residents and businesses within Westchester County. And whereas the Public Service Commission is currently reviewing Con Edison's petition for an electric and gas rate increase. And whereas it is in the best interest of the Village of Ossining to be represented in this matter to ensure concerns of local governments and its residents are adequately addressed. And whereas Joel R. Dichter of Dichter Law LLC has the necessary experience and expertise to represent the interests of the participating municipalities in this case, and has submitted a proposal dated February 15, 2025 to represent participating municipalities. And whereas the proposal includes intervening in the rate case, conducting discovery, retaining expert witnesses, preparing briefs and attending all hearings, and any settlement negotiations at a total cost that shall not exceed $100,000, which would be split equally among the participating municipalities that accept his representation. Now therefore be it resolved by the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining as follows. 1, the municipality hereby authorizes the hiring of Joel R. Dichter of Dichter Law LLC as special counsel to represent participating Westchester municipalities on Con Edison's electric and gas rate case before the Public Service Commission. 2, the municipality's share of the legal fees shall be determined based on an equal division among all participating municipalities, with the total amount of such representation not to exceed $100,000. 3, this authorization shall only take effect if at least 20 municipalities agree to be represented by Joel R. Dichter in this matter. 4, the village manager is hereby authorized to take all necessary actions to execute agreements and related documents and make payments in furtherance of this resolution. 5, this resolution shall take effect immediately and be it further resolved that the Village of Ossining shall coordinate the payment of Joel R. Dichter LLC on behalf of the participating municipalities for representation in this Con Edison electric and gas rate case. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll just let the board know, I will send around the latest notice from the Public Service Commission on April the 8th and 9th. There are public comment days with regard to this rate increase. They can be done via the web, they can be done online, they can be done by Zoom. So I'll send this to everybody.
I'm putting that
so
in the
they can
next
do that.
mayor message as well. So
Okay.
that'll be great.
Well, I'll
Yeah,
send it
no,
around.
that's
'Cause
perfect.
as of today, 7 PM, there were 1,013 public comments.
Right.
And there were more to
There
come.
will be more. Yeah, no,
Uh,
that'll be great. So we
uh,
will
Uh,
push that out.
Resolution appointment Hala Hose Company number 5, resolved that upon recommendation of the fire chief, Adrian Camposano, Ossining, New York, was elected as an active firefighter of Hala Hose Company number 5. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Appointment Cataract Hose Company number 2, resolved that upon recommendation of the fire chief, Oliver Turco, Ossining, New York, was elected as active firefighter of Cataract Hose Company number 2. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in
Comment?
favor? I'm sorry.
That's right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Appointment Ossining Hose Company number 1, resolved that upon recommendation of the fire chief, John Solari, Ossining, New York, was elected as an active firefighter, member of Ossining Hose Company number 1. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Removal from active roles, Hala Hose Company number 5, resolved that upon recommendation of the fire chief of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining, hereby removes Thomas Camp Jr. from the active roles of the Ossining Fire Department, Hala Hose Company number 5. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Driver's list, Independent Hose Company number 6, resolved that upon recommendation of the fire chief, Corey Carter was placed on the driver's list for Independent Hose Company number 6. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fire Department Driver's List, Cataract Hose Company number 2, resolved that upon recommendation of the fire chief, the following firefighters were placed on the driver's list of Cataract Hose Company number 2: Cooper Kavanaugh, Naleli Valdivinos, and Diego Valdivinos. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn the special session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn. Thank you.
Are we done? Woo-hoo. Wow, that's great meeting.